In one of the world's most populated areas, an outbreak of the coronavirus could pose enormous challenges. Social distancing is nearly impossible for Palestinians in the besieged Gaza Strip. 2 quarantine centers are being built in the south and northern areas that could house 1,000 people in a worst-case scenario. All those returning from abroad have been put in isolation, and Hamas authorities have turned hotels into quarantine centers. 13 years of the Israeli-Egyptian blockade and 3 wars with Israel, officials say the health system here is in shambles. They warn the region will not be able to survive an outbreak.
As Israel's government and its highest court headed towards an unprecedented showdown, the man at the center of the crisis announced he was leaving the stage. Yuli Edelstein told the Knesset, all but emptied by coronavirus restrictions, that he was resigning, rather than follow a ruling to hold a vote on Wednesday for his successor.
The Supreme Court decision harms the sovereignty of the people and the sovereignty of the Knesset in a manner without precedent. The Supreme Court decision undermines the foundations of Israeli democracy.
The opposition accuses him of having damaged those foundations by denying their majority its right to elect a new speaker and start driving parliamentary business.
A parliament in crisis mode. The Bundestag has changed its rules to allow decisions to be taken with fewer members present than normal. Those who were there sat at a safe distance from each other. Parliamentary President Wolfgang Schäuble called on deputies to show support for the key workers who are helping to keep the country going. In just one day, the Bundestag has green-lighted government plans to take on more debt this year than ever before. The crisis package includes an emergency budget of €156 billion, 50 billion to keep small businesses afloat, and money for hospitals expecting a wave of coronavirus patients.
Queens in New York is the worst infected district in what is now the world's worst infected city, and the doctors and nurses don't know what's hit them.
How is it?
Hell. Biblical. I kid you not. People come in, they get intubated, they die, the cycle repeats.
You overwhelmed?
Yeah, the system's overwhelmed all over the place. My daughter's an intern in Brooklyn, first-year resident. She starts the ICU today. I couldn't sleep last night. It's scary.
They are overrun in this hospital, so stretched that an area of the waiting room has been screened off to make a temporary ward.
Italian researchers have published a study of the outbreak in Lombardy, one of the country's regions hardest hit by COVID-19. The study concluded Italy's epidemic began much earlier than the first recorded cases on February the 20th. Researchers analyzed infection rates among confirmed cases and say the virus had already spread throughout most municipalities of southern Lombardy. The findings have yet to be peer-reviewed.
Israel is stepping up the fight to contain the spread of COVID-19. The country has already taken precautions, including banning foreigners from entering Israel and imposing a partial lockdown. Officials have now announced that the domestic intelligence agency Shin Bet will use cyber monitoring to follow citizens who have tested positive and those closest to them. The technology will also identify those who are suspected of being exposed to the virus and send messages telling them to self-isolate immediately. The decision comes despite concerns about breach of privacy.
There's some breach of privacy here. We need to balance between the right for privacy, which in normal times is a sacred right, and life. In normal times as well, as in times of emergency, civil rights are sacred.
I'm here at Exile at central London, just here making the new makeshift hospital. Just currently making up cables for it, but I didn't take this virus to be very seriously until, saw this morning. I come in and this is the size of the hall. This is where it's all going. We've got 4,000 beds to go in, 2 morgues. This hall is a kilometre long.
Many children in Yemen are starving. Some have lost their homes. Others are suffering from cholera. The United Nations describes it as the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. But some Yemenis believe the international community has played a principal role in prolonging the conflict instead of helping the country.
Yemen's interests are lost between the interests of the major powers. All states are seeking their own interests. The only loser is the Yemeni people. The Houthis are following Iran and its territorial ambitions. The legitimate government is helpless. The Arab coalition is divided between the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Battles are taking place on all fronts. Yemenis are starving. Epidemic is everywhere. The future of Yemen is unknown.